Hey, this is Jay from A Stitch in Time in Bemidji, Minnesota, and today we want to talk about edge-to-edge quilting. Edge-to-edge quilting is something we do on a long arm where we go from one edge completely to the other with a seamless pattern. It is known to be the kind of the workhorse of our long arm quilting, kind of like the bread and butter, because it's something that a lot of people do. A lot of long armers that are getting used to it, used to their long arm, will start with doing edge-to-edge quilting. And it's not near as complex as doing the custom quilting where you're putting lots of borders and different blocks in. So today what I'd like to do is I'm going to take you step by step through how to set up your quilt for edge-to-edge quilting very simply and very easily on your Pro Stitcher. We're not going to be going over the loading it into the frame. That's going to be on a different video. But we're going to be showing you how to go into Pro Stitcher, how to create your area, what size to create your area in relative to the size of your quilt top. And then we're going to show you all the different tools and how to fill it and how to crop it, make it fit so that you can get a nice, really intricate design that looks like you and looks like the quilt that you're working on. So I'm going to switch from doing it live here, and I'm going to do it instead on the simulator, because that way you can see my screen much better and I will explain the tools as we go along there. So right now we're going to switch over to that and we'll continue on. Okay, I'm going to assume that you have your quilt all loaded. You have your top lined up and fastened down by basting around the edge or however you do that. And you are ready now to start programming the area for your edge-to-edge quilting. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to create an area that's just a little bit bigger than our quilt. And I usually recommend 1/4 inch the whole way around the size of my quilt. So for today's lesson, we're going to use a quilt that's 50 inches wide by 65 inches tall. And there's nothing magical about that number. It's just that there's just some numbers I pulled out of my head, and there's not much there, so those are the numbers you get. And so I'm going to use those numbers, but I want my stitching to come just 1/4 inch past the edge on the right side and on the left side. So if my quilt is 50 inches wide, I'm going to want to go 50.5 inches so that I have a little bit of buffer on each side. You'll understand later when I show you the edges function of our cropping tool, because it is so nice. It makes it so much easier to quickly do this edge-to-edge pattern without all the starts and stops when we crop designs. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go up to the Area tab, and we're going to click on the Area tab, and then right underneath it, we're going to click on the 2 corner. Now, it doesn't matter where your machine is on the quilt. We're going to completely change around that later, okay? So right now, we're just setting it up. So I'm going to click on the 2 corner, and you now hear that little ding that comes with it. That means that it has registered 1 point. And all that does is that over on the right-hand side of our screen here, you can see where it says width and height. Well, instead of dragging the quilt, which I can drag it left and right just fine, but I can't drag it 50 inches towards me. My machine's not that big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in here. And remember, my quilt was 50 inches wide. So I'm going to put 50.5 inches in here. That's going to give me my 1/4 inch buffer on either side. Secondly, on my height was 65 inches, so I'm going to go 65.5, and we're going to click enter again. Now, you can see that they're entered in, but I can't see my design here, or I can't see my area here. Well, the reason being is that it's bigger than what my window is. So if we go down to the bottom right-hand corner, there's this button here, and I call it the whole house refresh. And what it does is it brings everything in the house, everything in the page onto our screen. And so when I click it, there you can see is my design. Now, it looks like my crosshairs are right on it. I'm going to just drag my crosshairs off so you can see that it is a pink line the whole way out around. That's how we quickly can set our area up for the entire quilt. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to fill it with designs, excuse me. There's 2 ways to do this. I'm going to show you the easy way, but it can have some bugs in it sometimes, but it's really simple and it works most of the time. And then when I'm at the end, after we've saved our design, we're ready to stitch it out, I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you another way that you should know in case something goes goofy when you're working through this, okay? So we're going to do the whole way through doing the easy way, and then we're going to go back and do it the other way that is also very workable, and it works when we have designs that haven't been digitized quite as well as some of the others. So what I need to do is I need to fill this area here with my edge-to-edge pattern. So I'm going to go up to the File tab. Right underneath File tab is Design, and I'm going to click on Design and then Open. Now, there's lots of patterns. Pro Stitcher Lite does not come with as many patterns. If you bought from either Baby Lock or Janome or some other brand, they don't come with any patterns except if that company puts some with it. Handi Quilter comes with almost 1,000 designs. For the sake of this class, I'm going to use the basic designs that come with Pro Stitcher. And these are the basic Pro Stitcher designs that every Pro Stitcher Lite for Handi Quilter and every Pro Stitcher Premium for Handi Quilter has these designs in it. So there's a folder here that says 1 PS Designs, and if I click the little arrow to expand it, it gives me my options. So there's blocks; those are ones that are going to start and stop in like the center or some place that is not easily continued. And then there's continuous line, which is another way of saying edge to edge. We're going to go into that one. And we're going to scroll down to clamshell with a curl. Now you can either click once and click open, or you can double click on the design and it will bring it in. And there you go. We have one beautiful clamshell with a curl. Now we need to fit that in here and fill this whole design. And we do that by going up to the Repeat tab. And the Repeat tab is a wonderful tool for edge to edge, and that's basically all we use it for, but it's really, really nice. And so I can come over here to in the Repeat tab. I'm in the basic and the ribbon bar. And on the right-hand side, I can just start clicking in here and adding more into this row because I'm working horizontally. I can change it to vertical, and I can go and put vertical rows in. But there's a nice little button right here. It's called Fill. And if I touch this, it immediately calculates what's the maximum number of designs I can get inside here, but I'm not going to touch the edges. And so if you notice, it filled it up perfectly, but I have all these edges here that don't connect. Okay? So it's important to note that the fill is going to stay inside of that. Now, right next to that fill, we have another button that says stretch. Now, I'm currently set up in the vertical, so watch what happens when I stretch it. It's stretched it vertically to fill my area. And that's what's very, very handy about that. I can change it from vertical to horizontal, and I can stretch it again, and now it has stretched it as well. One thing you have to be careful of in using this stretch tool is that when you're working with arcs like this, that have a perfect arc, if you stretch that too much, it doesn't stay circular. It becomes this weird, flat-topped arch. For instance, let me show you. Let's say I currently have 8 in a row. I only want 6. Well, look at what happens here. It's no longer circular. It's kind of half of an oval. And you have to be careful of that. Sometimes you don't care. But there's other times that some people really do. And so you have to be careful not to stretch that too much. Or the other option at the end that I'm going to show you how to do it, you don't have to worry about warping it at all. But it's a very handy tool for quickly getting it there and getting it done. Okay? Now, the question is, how big is this design? We didn't look at the dimensions necessarily before we loaded it, but I can actually go down here to the bottom and I can click on this zoom button that has the 1-to-1 ratio. And when I do, what shows up on my screen is exactly what's going to be down on the same size that's on my quilt. And it's very handy to look at that and say, you know what, that's kind of dense. I'm going to make it a little bit fewer repeats so that it's not quite so dense. So now I'm going to go to whole house refresh again. It brings it right back. And notice I have 8 columns in this row. So I'm going to, let's take it down to 6. All right. But now that makes these really oval shaped. So I can go up to vertical, and it's currently 21, and I can bring this way down here. Yeah, that looks pretty close. Only 15. Well, now 1-to-1 ratio, that's a lot farther apart. And I say, you know what? I like that better. I think that might, because I want to get this quilt done and move on to other ones. But just be aware of how you can do that. Now, we could stitch this out, but this is really boring because it is just rows and columns. You know, it's kind of boring. So they have a feature on this, which is called the wrap button. So remember, we were in basic mode up here before. Now we're going to move over and select the wrap. And so what the wrap does is it allows us to shift the rows independent of each other. For instance, I'm going to go up here to the horizontal, make sure I'm in the horizontal section over here. And for you Pro Stitcher Lite users, you're only going to have a button here that says half. But for the rest of us who are using Pro Stitcher Premium, watch what I can do. I can just click this, and I can start changing these rows and shifting them a little bit at a time so it's no longer just perfectly straight columns. For this design, half works beautifully because when I click the half button, notice how it offsets them perfectly, so it just makes us really eye-pleasing design. And I like that. That's good enough for me. You Pro Stitcher Lite users, you have that same function as well, but you just can't adjust it anything other than half. And so I could say, yep, that looks really good to me, and I could be all ready to do this. However, I have all these starts and stops here on these edges. And that means every time it gets to a red one, it's going to stop, do a tie off, move to the next green one, stop, do a knots and a locking stitch and tie and go from there. And it adds a lot of time to the quilt. However, on Pro Stitcher Premium, we have this little button down here called Edges. And basically, it's like this. If I have a design, here I'll zoom in here so you can see it really well in here. So what's going to happen is my design is going to come stitch up to here, and then it's going to come down to this one, stitch around here. Let me drag this up just a little bit higher so I can see it. Come down to this one, stitch up to here, come down to here, stitch, and up to here. And what I can do is when I click edges, it adds stitches between all of those. So it just quickly goes up and stitches it out, and you're all done. It's really nice, but you don't want that being stitched on your quilt. That's where that 1/4 inch at the edge of your quilt comes in. Who cares if it does a few extra stitches out there? You're going to cut it off and wrap it with binding anyways. So what I can do here is I'm going to go back to my whole house refresh so I can see my design again. When I click edges, watch that. Voila! They all go away. And it's a very, very handy way to do that. So now we have this all designed up, and I like the way it looks. But now I need to save this. Actually, there's 2 things I need to do here. I need to baseline this. And the reason baseline is so important is because we have a whole bunch of designs that are just all stacked together to make our own pattern, but they're not welded together. And so the program needs to read each design and its placement, and it's hard for it to do it when it's stitching it out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here on the left-hand side, and there's a button here that says baseline. Now watch what happens. Right now it's not grayed out. You see how the redo button above it is grayed out? That means you can't select it or it won't do anything. If I touch baseline here, what it does is it welds them all together. It's one complete design. And see, all my options disappeared on the right-hand side. They're not there anymore. And the baseline is grayed out. That means it is all welded together in one design. And just to show you, I can click on select, and when I click and drag this, I'm moving everything, not just one design. So that's a quick way of making sure that you have it baselined. Now I have it baselined, I need to save it. Why is saving so important? Because if something happens and you need to go back and reposition, or you all of a sudden get called away for a meeting, or your husband wants supper or something like that, some emergency like that, that is where you want to be able to shut down your system and come back to it and not have to recreate this design from scratch. So the way we do that is this. We go up to the File tab and we click Save. Now, on your ProStitch Lite people, you only have one option here. You will not have the ability to save your workspace. And workspace is something I'll talk about sometime else. But right now, I just want to save the selected design, and that's perfectly fine. You don't need to save the workspace unless this is a very complex area that you want to use again. Then you can save workspace, because the workspace is both the design and the areas. Okay? So I would just want just the selected right now. So I'm click selected, and it's going to say, where do you want to save this? Now, it's important for you to have some good housekeeping skills when it comes to your designs, because you need to not only be able to save it, you got to be able to find it. And you don't want to have a Bermuda rectangle like my desk is sometimes, where you put stuff there, but you can't find it later. So here's what you do. I'm going to suggest you close the design folder here. And see how the design is gray, green. I'm going to close the PS designs. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Leave the designs open, close the one PS designs. And I am going to go down here and I'm going to make a folder inside of the designs. So I'm going to click on just the designs again. And then up at the top here, I'm going to click on New Folder. And it's going to say, what's the name of the news folder? Well, I'm going to just call this Class Time, because that is what I'm going to put my designs in for this class. So I click Class Time, and then I click Create. And notice there is a folder here now. Right down at the bottom here, it says Class Time. And you can see it's in the C drive, it's in the Designs folder, and then underneath that is Class Time folder. And then I can rename this. And I'm going to call this Jay's Edge to Edge class. And you can type in whatever you want when you save it. But here's a handy tip. If you're quilting this quilt for someone else, you might put their name in here. So you might say Donna's grandson, or something like that. Because if she comes back a year from now and says, hey, you did a design on my grandson's quilt that was really cute. Could you do that one again? Well, if you have it named that way, you can call that back up. So I click Save, and voila, it is saved. And now we are ready to position this in our quilt. So how do we position this in our quilt? Let me show you the steps for that. And I'm going to first back up and say, let's say something really bad happens. And all of a sudden, shoo-shink, the electric blinks. You don't have that UPS like I told you about that you should get when I set up your machine. And all of a sudden, you reboot your machine and your design's gone. Where is it? Well, if we go up here to the design, notice what's right here first in line. It's your design you just saved. And you could click it on there, or you can click on Open and scroll down here to Class Time is my folder, and there is my design. And I can double click on it, and it brings it right into my workspace. So now the last thing is you're ready to do is you're ready to position this on your quilt and get ready to start quilting. Now remember, I told you at the beginning, it doesn't matter where your design, where your needle is positioned in the quilt, because we're going to reposition it anyways. And I have another whole video that talks about how to reposition your quilt many different ways. But I'm going to do this real quickly because I want you to get the whole story from beginning to end on how to do edge-to-edge quilting right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle, and you can take your machine, and you're going to move it until this corner is 1/4 inch above your quilt and 1/4 inch to the left of your quilt. Remember that 1/4 inch we talked about? That way it will be the same distance all around. And once I get my needle, if you have a Mara or a Infinity, you have a laser pointer on it. Once I get that point put right where I want it to be, a 1/4 inch above my quilt and a 1/4 inch to the left of my quilt, then I need to just reposition it. And the easiest way to do that is go up to the Modify tab and then Reposition in the ribbon bar. Once you click Reposition, you have a whole bunch of options over here. And what is the reference point on my quilt? Well, this is the top left corner of my quilt. So I can just simply say, here's the top left corner, and it'll automatically move my design in there, and I'm ready to start quilting. Isn't that easy? It's a lot of fun, and it's very simple to do. So I'm going to let you, if you have everything you need now, you can bail out and go do your own quilt. But I'm going to move from now into how to do this area and how to set up a design with not using the fill tool, because sometimes that can act up on us. And I will show that right now. Okay, there are some designs that do not come the whole way to the edges very well. And so thus when you use the fill tool, like we showed you prior, it doesn't want to fill right up to the edge of your quilt. There's other designs too that are not digitized as well that tend to drop out stitches or drop out segments when you go to stretch them and baseline them, as we were doing in the last section there. So this is another way to fill that area, and I'm going to show you a few more tools. So again, I've created this area here. It's the exact same size as we had before. And we are going to fill it, but we're going to fill it with a different design now. So we're going to go up to the File tab, the Design in the ribbon bar, Open. And this time we're going to still stay in the continuous line, and we're going to go down here to Feather Delight. And Feather Delight is a really neat little looking design, because for those of you who like feathers and this style of quilting, it's really hard to do that when you first get started. So again, I'm going to go up to the Repeat tab, but just to show you why this wouldn't work as well, if I just hit Fill, look what it does. You have, I can stretch this. I can stretch this vertically, and I can stretch this horizontally. But notice I have these big gaps up here in the top. I have smaller gaps down the bottom, and I have these weird, ugly gaps in between here. It doesn't look as nice. And so this is what I'm going to show you that's going to help take care of that with the designs you have. So I'm going to go undo, 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 back to my one design. All right? So instead of using the fill button, I'm going to actually turn off stretch, because I don't want that on there anymore. So I'm going to actually go into here, and I'm going to add up, let's see, I think 5 should do it for the width. And then I'm going to change it to vertical, and I'm going to add up here to, let's just do 10 of them, okay? Now, we still have the same problem with the gap in here. And you notice that it hangs over the edge here. We don't have to worry about distorting our curves. You know, there's not going to make those nice feather curves weird and wonky. But I need to work with this design. So when you're in the vertical section over here, there's a part here that is called gap. And watch what happens when I press minus. I can subtract the amount of gap in between the rows. Now you can sit here and keep clicking this if you want to, or you can click in here and go minus 1.2, which I know because I was playing with this, that I know that works really well. And look what happens. It now looks like it all fits together there, and you can have it very nicely done. Oh, our shirt tail came untucked. It's a little bit, we got a little bit of midriff or something showing down here. So all we need to do is just simply go up here to the rows, and from 10, make it to 11. And there we go. That's simple, as easy as pie, isn't it? And that now I have a design that goes the whole way across. I still got some little gap up in here. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit here, but I have everything done in place. Now, once I have the look and I have a big enough area, all of stitches, that I can fill up my area, my purple space, I'm going to baseline this. And this is really important. You always want to baseline this because you need to freeze that and weld those all together. So I'm going to click baseline. And notice now I only have one design, both horizontal and vertical. And if I click on select and you take your finger and you drag this around, it drags as one complete design. So now, instead of it being with this big open gap up here, I can just simply drag it up until I have nice stitching the whole way along here. If you're working with a specific design, like you're working with the dump trucks or something like that, and you don't want to cut half a dump truck in, or you just want just a little tail end of one, you can actually shift it around in here so you can get the exact look that you want. Once I have everything positioned so that I have nice stitching the whole way to the corners, I'm going to crop away all of the stitching on the outside. And that is really simply done by this. We can go up to the Modify tab. We click on Crop, which is right in the ribbon bar underneath it. And on the right-hand side, we're going to click on Outside. We're going to crop everything outside of it. And there it is. It's all gone. But you notice all those starts and stops? Well, remember what we did in the last one? We can simply click on this Edges button, and because we have that here as well, and it cuts all those edges off, or connects all those raw edges with stitches. So as long as you're off the edge of your quilt, or at least within that 1/4 inch that's going to be covered up by your binding, that is the way that you're going to be able to do that. So I'm going to show that. That's a quick way of how to do the filling with crop, and this is a great way. And some people, this is all they ever use. I wanted you to see both of them because that way you can learn which way is going to work best for you. Or if you have a design that really wants to not play nice in the sandbox, you can go do something else with it by working with it through this tool. So I'm going to show that now, and now I'm going to move into another section where I show you what happens if you get down to the bottom of your quilt and there's not quite enough stitching. Or we'll start off by doing two things. If you get to the edge quilting, you get down to the bottom and you have 6 inches of design and you only have 2 inches of quilt, what do? I'll show you that right now. Okay, I forgot to say, don't forget to always baseline after every crop. Because if you don't, and you remove your area or you shift it, you will shift your whole pattern and it won't stay in place. So baseline and save after every crop. So now what happens if you get to the end of your quilt and there's not enough space? Let me show you. So here I drew a black line to illustrate where my quilt is at. And my pattern, is hanging a little bit over the edge, but it's hanging significantly over down here, and I don't have that much stitching to do out in the open batting. So how do I take care of that? It's very simple to do. All I'm going to do is when I get down here to the bottom, note how that I have this last row here I can do that whole row without having any issue. It's this little bit down here that's the problem, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle. After I stitch this row, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to position in the top left-hand corner, on my quilt right here. So I can see that there's nothing going to be above, there's none of the stitching of this row is going to be impeding with that line. And I'm going to make a new area. Actually, I forgot to clear out my old area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 2-corner, and then you can hear the little ding, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to move my needle now down to this bottom right-hand corner. I can be off the edge here. It doesn't matter all that much. I want to be down there right at that edge, and I can click 2-corner again. And now look what it does. It automatically, it gives me my new area here. So now I can go up here to the Modify tab, and I can be in the Crop button, and I can crop everything outside that tab. And remember, everything is still located right where it needs to be. I don't need to be shifting anything. I can just do this right here. I'm ready to do the next row. And I can crop this. I can also do my edges. But now notice that it's going to try and restitch that first little bit up there. Well, we don't want that. So what we'll do is we'll go up to the Pro Stitcher tab. We go to New Start and End. And we're down at the bottom over here where there's these jumps button. I want to go down one jump. And watch what happens right here. See how there's these green crosshairs? That's where it's going to start. Wherever I move that, it's going to start. And so when I click the down jump arrow, see how it moved down to the bottom one? And now it's ready to stitch out. And I could actually go up to Quilt, and I can click Run, and we're just going to stitch it out. Oh, here comes my crosshairs. I should have brought it back to do that. But it'll actually just stitch just this bottom row, and it won't be stitching away in that open space. So it's a very handy way to do that if you have too much quilting but not enough quilt. And so this is how it will actually do it. And you can see how it turns it gold just like we're always used to. Okay? So we're just going to pause this and cancel out of this. And that's how you would do it if you have too much quilting, not enough quilt. But what happens if you have too much quilt and not enough quilting? Well, that's also very easily done as well. Let me show you also. I'm going to undo to bring this all back so my whole design is here. So I'm just going to select and grab this design. Actually, no, I need to, yeah. So let's say I'm going to clear this area out so that you can see this. So now let's zoom in here so that you can see this. Let's say we're getting down to this row. We do this row, and all of a sudden, it's not going to reach far enough. Maybe we were tensioning our quilt top a little too much, and we stretched it more than when it was on the floor. We measured it with a tape measure. What do we do here? It's really, really simple to do. We just need to artificially add another row to it. And here's the simplest way I've found. I'm going to take my needle, and I'm going to position that laser point. Like, I've done this row. We're going to say I've done this row, and now it's ready to do this one, but it's going to be cut off, and I don't want to do that yet. So it's not a problem whatsoever. What I will do is I'll advance my quilt like I'm going to do the whole next row, and once I get done advancing it, I will bring my needle and I'll position it right over that start point. Okay? And if you need to zoom in on it, with your machine, you can, but you want to get your needle right on that crosshair point. Okay? Now I'm going to zoom back out just a little bit so you can see what I'm going to do here next. All right. So now, bring it back here. I'll still take it out a little bit more. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift my whole pattern, one complete pattern. Now, don't move your machine. Leave your machine right where it's at right now. And you're going to need to click cancel to stop your quilting. All right? Don't freak out. I know, it's kind of like, I'm going to lose my position. No, as long as you don't disengage your gears or you don't shut down your tablet or things like that, you're going to be just fine. So you click cancel, and it's going to come back to a screen that looks very similar to this. You're not going to see any of your run tools or things like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the Pro Stitcher tab. I'm going to go to New Start and End Point, and I'm going to use the arrows here to notice how when I do this start point is jumping back and forth. Now, yours is probably going to be here, and you just have to go up one because it was probably here to start with. And if you just went up one, it moves the start point to the row you just completed and advanced up into the quilt. That's fine. That's fine. Just leave it there. Because what we need to do is we need to do another whole row, right? Or at least we need to have more stitching than what we have here. So now what I'll do is I'll move it up to this one. And at this point, I go up to my Modify tab, and I go to Reposition. Okay, follow with me here. Reposition, and I'm going to, on the right-hand side, I'm going to choose move this start point to where my needle is. And so I can click move the start point, and look what it did. It just shifted the whole quilt down. And now it's all ready to quilt it out. But now I have too much down here. Well, it's no problem. Now we do the same thing we did in the prior one if we have too much quilting. I simply take my crosshairs and I move them up so to get above that row, the row that I need to do here. I go to my area tab. I hit 2 corner, ding, and I go down to the bottom corner of my quilt here. And I'll just get off the edge here just so I can see that. And I go 2 corner again. There's my area. Just like I did before, I go to modify. I go to crop. I'm going to crop everything outside of that. I'm going to connect my edges. Oh, but I don't want to stitch that row. That row's already done. So again, I go back to Pro Stitcher. New start and end. Down 1 jump to where I was. And voila. There we go. That's how easy it is to do it. Now, your head is probably swimming because, Jay, that's too much. I can't do that. That's all right. Go back and just pause it and step by step follow through it, and you'll get it done. I know you can do it. You've look at all the quilts you've done already. This is just another step, another grade in edge-to-edge quilting. Have fun. So there you go. That is how you can set up your quilt to do edge-to-edge quilting very quickly and very easily. What do you think? Do you think you can do it? I encourage you to take this video and watch it as you are actually on your machine, that you're setting it up and you're doing it yourself. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments below, or you can email us or call us at the store. But edge-to-edge quilting is a lot of fun, and I'm hoping to see some of the projects you have on your journey. Thanks much, and stay tuned for the next lesson.